students, the world has become a global village. And its imprints on the legal pedagogy has been wonderful, but demanding at this same time. One of the core benefits about academic success is that a student has to be very dedicated, very sincere, very honest to himself, and has to put in hard labor and hard work. I want to tell every student of this institution that no matter how hard your journey to the success is, your hard work will pay you off. At the same time, therefore, giving up should not be an opinion for anybody as a student. Our hope is that after passing the programs which you are pursuing in the department, whether it is BA, LLB, LLB, LLM, or PhD degree programs, the students of the institution will develop into mature, happy, responsible young adults who are prepared to face the future with confidence. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed guests and fellow participants, today we gather for an occasion that marks a significant step towards fostering legal awareness in our community.
As I stand here addressing the future lawyers and legal experts of this country, I am reminded of the immense potential that each of you hold. The law is not just a set of rules, it's the very backbone of our society. It governs our actions, protects our rights, and ensures that justice prevails. And while we learn about laws in classrooms, events like today give us a unique chance to go beyond textbooks. We live in times of rapid change. The way we communicate, the way we work, and even the way we understand privacy and freedom have evolved. As society transforms, the law must keep pace. Justice Sridharan and his colleagues in the judiciary have been at the forefront of shaping the legal landscape in India to meet these new challenges. Whether it's ruling on data privacy, environmental concerns, or social justice, the judiciary's role in responding to contemporary issues is critical. As law students, it's essential for you to stay updated on these changes. You are the ones who will take forward the torch of justice in the years to come. Your understanding of how the law adapts to meet society's evolving needs will be crucial. For the information of our chief guest, sir, the alumni of our law department are spread all over the world, not only all over the country, but all over the world at the very key positions. This shows the faculty which has trained them, the faculty which has taught them. They have been of very high caliber in academics and research, and we are very proud of our alumni, very proud of our faculty at this time, and very proud of our students. Legal education is not just about knowing the laws, it's about understanding the impact they have on real people. The cases you read in your books are more than just legal precedents. They are stories of human lives affected by justice, or sometimes the lack of it. In a country as diverse in India, the law is often the bridge between differing opinions, backgrounds, and beliefs. It ensures that every voice, no matter how small, is heard. As you prepare for your future in the legal field, remember that this responsibility will soon be yours.
The starting was very nice. The university, Tarana, it had me enraptured. It was beautiful. It was beautiful, bringing out the vibration of Jammu and Kashmir, and more specifically of Srinagar, the way it was depicted, wonderful. As judges, we occupy chairs. We are not. We are transient. We are human beings. We come, we live, we die. But what is immortal is the chair on which we sit. It is that which is honorable, not the judge. The honorable is the court. So it's time we start, analyzing that what is important is not the mortal who sits on it, but what he sits upon. Yes, undoubtedly the actions of the mortal can go to enhance the halo that the chair has behind it or diminish it. Either ways. But then right now, I'm not a judge for the simple reason I'm not sitting on that chair. I'm a judge of the High Court from 10:30 to 4:30 in the evening during working days when I'm sitting on that chair. So after that, I'm just another ordinary citizen of this country. And that's the outlook that I feel, personally speaking for myself, that judges must bear in mind rather than as haloed representatives of God. They are not. God does not need any representative at all. I mean, that's an act of blasphemy. The thought is blasphemous that God needs a representative. Why? It's that, we exist because of our faith in that entity, and that entity it works on its own. It may have put us in circumstances to test how we respond to that circumstance, but it's certainly not placed us there to do its work. There is no entity that is required to perform God's work, and so to think that we are emissaries of God is the first mistake a person sitting on that chair can do. You're sitting there, maybe you're being tested. So have your eyes and ears and your heart open and then decide as to how you must judge the case, not the individual. We never, as judges, we do not judge the human being. We judge the case before us. And the repercussion of our judgments undoubtedly are on human beings, but then so be it. But then we are not judging the human being inside. We see whether the facts and circumstances of the case, how do we proceed, how do we decide, but that's about it. So I've been speaking about myself. I was a person who was born in the foot of India, that's Kerala, evolved in the heart of India, that is Madhya Pradesh, and right now serving in the mind of India, that's Kashmir. So the journey has been interesting. It's been varied, and it's God's grace that I've got this opportunity of traveling so much, seeing so many varied cultures, so many varied people. So it breaks down a lot of prejudice when you meet people. And I can say for the people of Jammu and Kashmir, they are exceptional. My experience here has been tremendous. I've just been here for a year and about 6 months on. And the kind of people that I've met here are fascinating and unprecedented and unlike any other people that I've met anywhere in India. I'll give a small example. A brother judge from Madhya Pradesh is traveling in Srinagar right now because they have a long break for Dashera, almost 1 full week. So this is this instance that he was telling me. He went to the Dal Lake, booked a shikara, paid 3,000 rupees for it. So now he thought that he would be taken around for at least 2 or 3 hours at the rate of 1,000 rupees per hour. He thought it would be about 3 hours. He would be taken around the lake. But the ride ended after 40 minutes. So after that, the poor gentleman told the shikara, the oarsman, he said that, look, you charged extra. We thought we would be taken for a longer ride around the Dal Lake. You know what that shikara man did? He took out 500 rupees and returned to the judge. He doesn't know who the person is. For him, it's just a tourist. And more importantly, he apologized to that person. Now, this would have never happened anywhere else in India, because I have traveled quite a bit. Central, east, south, everywhere. But this I can tell you with an element of responsibility would never have happened anywhere else in India. That kind of an act. And even I myself, when I go around, like I said, incognito, without the frills of the office, that's a time when you interact with people, one-to-one. And the grace and large-heartedness of the people of Kashmir is unprecedented. It is without any equal. That's my personal opinion. There may be others who may have a different opinion. So, but I have, of course, one particular complaint with the people of Kashmir is they themselves don't travel. Whenever I ask people from Kashmir, why don't you travel outside J&K? They said, yes, we have traveled outside J&K. So I said, where all have you been? And everyone says Delhi. So like I'm staring at the person. For him, Delhi is going to the mainland India and getting back. So there are so many places. You see what happens when you travel. It expands your mind. We are all, as human beings, We are not born with prejudices. Our environment, however, instills us with prejudices. We may think that there is something that is bad or something that's good, not because, like I said, born with those ideas in our mind, but living in societies, certain things factor in a lot of inputs. Living in a society, we factor in a lot of inputs, and that tailors our thought process. But what happens is when you step out of your comfort zone and go to other places, meet other people also, it can break that stereotype that because what was told to us may be much different from what actually is. So when you travel out, you see what actually is. And maybe that's different from what was told to us as what exists in that particular place. So when you interact more, and like I said, God's been very kind because it gave me opportunities or put me in places where such interactions became inescapable, for which I'm truly thankful. Because it is only through those interactions that I've grown as a human being, and which I think is a very important facet of being a judge or a lawyer. And I'll come to that. So you have all studied or are studying in an institution that you can genuinely be very, very proud of. An institution that came up around the fag end of the 1930s, as I'm told, and the department itself is as old as 1972. So this is not, that means you have a history, you have a tradition, you have a legacy to look upon. And like Madam said, you have an alumni that's not just restricted to India, but is there all over the world and doing human service to humanity, I'm sure, and bring great accolades to the institution, the university, that is. So you have a lot. So you see, traditions and history matters so that you can look back upon. And when you join the bar or you become judges, you must get to learn as to those people who have walked the portals of justice before you. What were they? How were they? What was the kind of lives they led? If you're sitting as a judge, then you must factor in who are those who sat on these chairs before me. What kind of human beings were there? What was the reputation? And how did they win the confidence of the society that they served? What are the things that they did? What went on in their minds? Now this is all that the history is required to be learned. History is always important to ensure that we don't commit the mistakes of the past. But history should not be used to let those wounds fester, which is without reason. You can't change history, what has happened in the past, but what you can do is learn from it and ensure that what happened in the past we will never, and ensure that we will not commit it in the future. Living in Madhya Pradesh, my lessons in history there were of, over a period of time when the society involved, even in Kerala when it involved, there were periods of oppression of people in these places also, but how the society went ahead of it. What were those movements, or what were those people? Who are those people who brought about the change that from oppressive societies became egalitarian society, like in Kerala today? If you look at it, highly educated, highly literate, highly evolved, only because of education. But that was not what it was always. That was the same state with Vivekananda said is a lunatic asylum, because of the prevalent caste system in Kerala. And it was obnoxious the way it existed there at that time. But then there were people, social reformers, who came to the fore and changed that. Today that is not existing in Kerala at all. So if I say with the Kerala in mind, how do I read history? It is only to know what the past was, to ensure that it is never repeated in present times, that we do not regress to that extent, that Kerala becomes again the lunatic asylum that Swami Vivekananda once called it. But yes, society progressed, people evolved, society evolved, and they are at a different place than what they were perhaps over a century ago. The same thing applies for any society. It's not specific to India alone. Every society learns from its history so that it doesn't commit the same mistakes that it had committed in the past. Now let's come back to law. I can see a lot of people are yawning, so that means I should go from history now to law. As far as coming back to that's the topic of the day, as to what do you do after you finish your 5 years. That's just the starting point. And some of you may enter the profession as lawyers, some of you would prefer to go into the judiciary, and that choice is entirely yours, of course, but both are required. The lawyers, the bar is also required, the bench is also required, both are equally important. But in both the places, before you go there, when you leave this institution, which I understand is a haloed place, and for good reasons, like Madam said, don't think that you know everything. That's the biggest and the most fatal mistake that you can do. The first thing that should be in the mind is, I know something, but there is an ocean out there which I must learn. And sometimes to learn about that ocean, you make associations with those who are there before you, who have reached there before you, whom you call as your seniors. You join the offices of or chambers, as they are called in the field of law, of eminent lawyers, not just to learn about the law, but to learn about the traditions of the bar. Most importantly, it's not just good enough that you have good knowledge, you have good articulation, you can stand up before the judge and argue your case, but how your body language presents that case to the judge is just as important as your knowledge of the subject. Now that you can only get when you work under a senior. You observe the senior. You see the senior, of course, who's far more knowledgeable than the judge who's sitting there. Seniors are. I have no qualms in stating that. Who have worked at the bar for 30, 35 years are far more knowledgeable than us who are sitting on the bench. So they also see how they argue, see how they impress upon the judge, see how they pull back. That's important. When do you pull back and how do you come back to the grace of the court? Now I'll tell you on advocacy. There's a chamber colleague of mine where I worked with Mr. Gopal Subramaniam. I'll come to that a little later, but I must tell you about the seniors that I worked with, which is again the grace of God that I was there with them. When I joined the bar in 1992, I was with Mr. Gopal Subramaniam. He's a senior advocate at the Supreme Court. And by God's grace, I was there with him for 5 years. And what I learned from his chamber was invaluable. Now, he had a preponderant practice in the Supreme Court Council. And his articulation was without parallel. The way he used to speak and, it was like a river flowing whenever he used to address the court. All the grammatical full stops and commas and all the pauses would come out of the course of the argument itself. Amazing man, and with a phenomenal memory and an ability to marshal and understand almost any law under the planet. Amazing man. So from 92 to 97, I was with Mr. Gopal Subramaniam, an invaluable experience. And after that, I shifted to Indore in 2001, which is my hometown, and home state is Madhya Pradesh. As lawyers, you have the freedom of speech, or shall I say, the power of speech. You are the only ones who can actually defend or protect every institution if you think it is wrong, because you have the power of speech. Even during freedom movement, who were the ones who spearheaded this freedom movement? Most of them, a large number of them, were lawyers. Why? Because they had the power of articulation, the ability to put across their thoughts in words that was comprehensible not only to the elite but to the common man. So that power of voice that you have, the authority of the words that you can possess, that is unparalleled. That makes you the most powerful person after God itself. At least on our earth, there is no parallel to you. But that power must be exercised with a sense of responsibility. We cannot be loose with our tongue only because we have the freedom of speech. There would be fallouts for that. And we are actually here to, your power of speech, or should I say, should be used for the purpose of improving society and improving the present, not making it worse than what it is. Or if there is something that is good that is happening, to perpetuate it with your power of voice. That's what we are here for as lawyers. And the other thing is the nuances of the profession, which means that you should be unequivocal in two things. One is hard work and the other is integrity. As lawyers also, the integrity must be unquestionable. If someone comes to you with a case, don't file it in court only because he's willing to give you a fee. Find out whether that case is worthwhile filing in a particular court that your client wants. Your client has come to you not to be misled. He has come to you for proper advice. He may want it to be filed in, say, the magistrate's court, but going through it, you find that there is no adequate material for him to approach the magistrate court as on date. It is for you to tell him that. It is for you to educate him that if you go prematurely to the court right now, you would suffer an adversity, which may remain with you right up till the Supreme Court. So the first thing, that is integrity, and there that client will appreciate it. Let me tell you that. You prevented him from going to court, you have not taken the fee from him. He will go and tell 10 others. Those 10 others will tell 10 others that such and such a lawyer will give you an honest opinion. The person is not after money. And then as that stature of yours grows because of your integrity and knowledge that you gather over a period of time, your stature will grow. Your clientele will grow. So from day one, do not be interested in making money. Yes, money is important. We cannot survive. We are all there to actually earn a living. But how much money does each one of us require? That is an individual discretion. There is no rule of thumb, and nobody can pontificate to the other. You don't charge so much of fees. Incorrect. Charge how much ever you want if you think you are worthy of it. And that worthiness comes with the passage of time. Nothing starts off, you can't become a millionaire on your day one. That's a fallacy. If you're entertaining it, dispel it right away. It's hard work. This is a profession where we all reach wherever we reach. More rather than by merit. Merit is required, but hard work, industry. So a lawyer must have the eyes of an eagle, because when you're looking through documents, you should be able to read between the lines. And then the heart of a tiger, that should be absolutely fearless. And when you are appearing before the court and you are convinced of a particular argument, put it forth. Put it forth in a manner that is palatable to the court. You don't have to be rude to the court. You can be forceful without being rude. You can be forceful and you can impose yourself without being abrasive to the court. You can be forceful by being graceful. So have both those factors. And grace, and I would say excessive grace, is what defines the profession of advocacy, not abrasiveness. And let me tell you something, the more you are graceful to the court, you may lose a case, but winning the court is important. See, there are cases where you know that the case is against your client. You don't have to stand up and tell the court that, look, my client has no case. But you don't have to argue the absurd. When you start arguing the absurd, the court feels that you are deliberately doing it only to, to justify the fees that you have taken. Never fall into that trap. And when you are appearing from the side of the state as counsels for the state opposing bail applications, you are not there to ensure that the man remains in prison. A lot of you will become prosecutors. You're not there to ensure that the man remains in prison. You're there to ensure that the judge gets proper assistance. And how you do it is not by arguing the case of the defense or the accused, but by placing the facts before the court. By placing the facts before the court and going no further. I remember when I was appearing as a counsel for the state before it was a bail bench, and there was no material before the court. Continuing with the imprisonment of the person. I couldn't stand and say that there is no case against him. So how do I put forward? I place the evidence, I read out from the evidence, this witness has said this witness has said this witness has said this. These are the material in which his name is not there. His name was not there in the FIR. Subsequently added 10 days after that, after the statement of so-and-so witness, which was recorded 7 days after the incident, no reason given by the police, all that, I placed it before the judge. Now after that, Justice Avasthi, he is no more, God bless his soul, he put a very strange question to me. He looked at me and said, "To bail de de?" So now that was a tricky question. I said, I have done my job of placing the facts before the court. Now it is for the court to decide what is to be done. So as a prosecutor, which like I said, many of you will become in the future, your job is not there to see that the man stays in prison. It is to assist the court to arrive at a just decision. And sometimes justice may be because that the prosecution's case, there is no case, and that the man comes out. But that nuance of placing the true facts before the court without stepping into the shoe of a counsel for the accused, that's an art which has to be developed over a period of time. So We don't argue as prosecutors to ensure that come what may, by arguing all rubbish, I'll maintain that the person remains in prison. Incorrect. I will argue where there is an arguable material, or I'll just place the material before the court and leave it for the court to decide. Defense counsels, which a lot of you will become, you can argue your case, you need not argue what is against your client. You need not. But at the same time, you cannot argue a falsehood, knowing fully well that it's a false statement. You cannot make a false statement as a defense counsel. You do that and you're in for big trouble with the court, and that would be an act of professional indiscipline, and you can be penalized for that. So as a defense counsel, do not think that you can say anything that you want. Yes, you need not say what is against your client. As a defense counsel, you have the right to remain silent as far as that is concerned. That's for the prosecution to bring out. Prosecution's duty is far more onerous. The defense only has to defend. But in that process, it cannot lie to the court. It cannot place a misstatement of fact before the court. To confuse or mislead the court, the defense counsel cannot do. When you're cross-examining witnesses, you can put questions, you can break that witness by the art of your cross-examination. But what you must never advise your client is that try to overawe that witness. That would be an offense, that would be a crime. You cannot advise your client to break a witness by extraneous means. You can break the witness when the witness is standing in the witness box through your art of cross-examination. But that is all, not beyond it. So, and of course, lastly, I would say that do appear for people who are underprivileged, who don't have money. If a poor man comes to you with a case, and he may not have the money to give you, see if he has a good case. And if he has a good case and you think you can articulate his case before the court effectively, and if you're not in immediate need of money, don't send him away. Take his case, appear for him, and you don't know how you will reap the benefits of doing that. You will never know. When you're doing it, you will never know. It is only maybe 10, 15 years after that those effects would come back to you, but it will. So even legal services, you need not be associated formally with the Legal Services Authority to be doing or giving legal aid. If someone who is poor to you comes to you and you think that you are able to do his case well, take it pro bono, what we call as free of charge, and do that case also. But that's your silent contribution to the society. Our contribution to the society is not something that we take a drum and beat, that I did this, I did that. Not necessary at all. But when you do that one act, that one man will, without you realizing it, he will go and tell 100 others that this is what happened to me and this is the lawyer who appeared for me without even charging. You don't have to say anything. So a lot of things happen when we do our work in silence. It's not in court. In court, of course, we are supposed to speak. We are supposed to argue the matter. So these are broadly the things that I would like you people to dwell upon. I don't want you to say that these have to be done, but just ponder upon them. Think about it. Contemplate upon it. And then see how you can, if it is possible, to imbue it in your own life. And when you start practice, you can do that. It is actually a situation where you can do a lot of good, like the doctor who treats a person without taking money from him because the person doesn't have money, and is able to remove the pain from his body. Does a great job. He is doing literally doing God's bidding. Even though God doesn't say so in so many words, doing God's bidding when you remove the pain of a fellow human being. But that is something that we as lawyers can also do.